I do this presentation because I worked because I want to deliver a message to the actuaries in Malaysia and in Singapore when they asked me to speak in a practical way what they could do as actuaries, right, for the future. But that became a thought process which began in some debates within the council in the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. It also reflected my campaign statement when I wanted to be a council member, and it became my presidential manifesto. My presidential manifesto is how do we, as a profession, secure our future and thrive in a digital age. That is the headline of my manifesto. And I suppose the council elected me based on that, plus other attributes and opportunity and context for a variety of reasons, because I was on a slate of candidates, but I was fortunately elected. So I want to tell you that story and how my own views have been changing, and it's been even updated in the last 48 hours. Yeah? And so you can see the relevance of the conversation I have with people, with Sophia Chung from Malaysia, and Han Chua from Hong Kong, why I say what I say. So, but this is the presentation. I use the word navigating across the paradigms because I think we just got to open up our mindset as a profession and really begin to navigate outside our silos. Yeah, and it is about the digital revolution, but it's not just about the digital revolution. As Masaki say, it's also about decarbonization, it's about demography, about 100 years life, it's about inequality, it's about global trade. The world is changing, right? So what do we do as actuaries? And I want to make the conversation real for the people in this room, right? Especially those who are below 40. Especially in Malaysia and Singapore, the audience was much younger and more junior. And I wanted to make it real because you can talk about abstract ideas about digital revolution. But I want to make it real because when I became an actuary 35 years ago, I landed on a big prize, right? Because my future was safe and secure. So I wanted to ask myself that if I'm an actuary today at the age of 25 or 27, would what I have as a skill set acquired today would be sufficient to secure my future until my retirement age, which could be extended to age 70 by that time, yeah, because I'm age 25 because of longevity. So I want to ask that question. And today, and when this speech was made, it was the first iteration of my thinking. First iteration, but today, I think it's the second iteration of thinking because I'm going to inject some ideas which I learned from this conference, as well as the strategy sessions which Derek and I and John Taylor were running in London, and we are picking up things which help us answer the question. So it's a very dynamic subject. That's why I want you to come here. So I like the word paradigm because I first learned about it as a CEO in Prudential 30 over years ago, when the customer service guy told me, if you want to reinvent your call center or reinvent your product marketing, you cannot ask the people who are in charge of it to reinvent it because you have too much interest, vested interest. You must gut people outside the paradigm. So when we look at paradigms, it is about the way we interpret the world, the worldview we adopt. So the moment you use your existing paradigm to interpret your view, you are distorted already. So therefore, you've got to be aware of it. So in philosophy, it's called coherentism. But this word was first coined by actually Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher, but popularized by a thinker called Thomas Kuhn, which is about the structure of scientific revolution, and you see how changes can take place. But clearly I'm implying that we need to have a fundamental revolution in the way we think about the profession now and into the future. So then I want to relate to worldviews, right? Because is the world changing very fast? Or this is not a big deal, right? There are two schools of thought, Is the world changing very fast? Or is it not a big deal? There is a group of people who say that the world is changing very fast. The world is changing very fast, and it's a big deal because of the speed, pervasiveness, and impact. And the work we do today will be very different, completely different in 20 to 30 years' time. But there's also another group of people, and there are many of us in this industry. I'm not sure in China, but certainly in Southeast Asia and in UK. Yeah, the world is changing very fast, but it's not a big deal because the world is always changing. Yeah, it's always changing. Yeah, agricultural revolution came and went. Industrial revolution came and went. So people like even Martin Wolf of Financial Times says actually the change we see today in digital acceleration is not as big as industrial revolution, and he showed you all the statistics, yeah? And it's not just Martin Wolf. People like John Allen, the founder of Microsoft, Gordon Moore, Steven Pinker, actually think that this pace of change is quite not exceptional, not fundamental. But there are other people who think that this is fundamental. It's going to change the way we live and work. But then you go into philosophy. What do you mean by different? What do you mean by same? What do you mean by fundamental? So, but that is how I would just leave it as it is for the time being, right? So therefore, I'm going to do a very quick walk. I want to explore 12 themes, 12 books in about 10 minutes. Yeah? Then I will attempt to diagnose the problem which our profession face, the profession as I understand it face, especially in a British context. Then I think I'm going to suggest that the way to navigate it is to adopt a mindset, a certain mindset on how to navigate a paradox, which I will call the Moravec Paradox. So this is how it goes. And the first book is a very important book because it's fundamental. It's about the future of the profession. And it's a father and son team. And he's basically saying the world is going to change very rapidly and professions will disappear because of increasingly capable machines, because of increasingly connected humans, and increasingly pervasive machine in an internet-based society. And our profession, which is actual profession of 150 to 250 years, and all the other professions, whether it's law, journalism, engineering, medicine, in the last 500 years formed in guilds in the UK and Scotland, is based on a paradigm called a print-based society. With the invention of Gutenberg, and it came up with print-based interpretation of knowledge, which is in books, is held by experts. But before that, it was oral and it was script. Oral and script, you don't have profession, and profession gave birth to of experts who are interpreters. But the world of digital storage, retrieval, and distribution of information has very different characteristics which do not require human experts. And he is partially right. Whether he's completely right, we do not know. And therefore, it will lead to technological unemployment, and the first casualty will be the professions. That is his thesis, okay? I'm not saying that, I'm subscribed by his thesis. But as you see the world changing, his book was written 2 or 3 years ago, he has a credible point of view, So that is the first book. I'm going to go to the second and third book are written by Eric Brand Johnson and Andrew McAfee from MIT, and they talk about exponential growth. Exponential growth is not a big deal. All of us understand it. It's more or less doubling every year or every 18 months. But we are now on the second half of the chessboard. The second half of the chessboard. Because it started in 1960, right? Second half of chessboard, and every year's growth is so huge, that you got to use log normal transformation to actually get a sense of it, and also is approaching a capacity in 2048 or 2038 where singularity, which means that the ability of machines to outpace the human brain in terms of complexity will occur, and there where the real why AI will emerge. But those are speculations, yeah? And there are a lot of rival views. And also, he says that it is about digital power, which all of us understand, but it's also about recombinant innovation. So Google Photos is not just about lens, but it's about GPS, it's about facial recognition, it's about social networks, it's about wireless computing, it's about cloud computing and broadband. Therefore, they could connect and reorganize their albums, distribute to your friends automatically, because that is recombinant innovation, and that is where a lot of innovation is going to take place. And then the second book is about platforms. Alibaba is a platform, Facebook is a platform, Aviva, Prudential, AXA are a product and services company, and they are digitizing their process. That is not a platform digital company. There is a fundamental difference between the two kinds of company. You are digitizing your process and be customer-centric, which is very good. But if you're a platform company, the whole philosophy and the drivers of a platform company is different. So there's a book which will give you a key to that. The next three books is about the rise of robots. I don't want to talk about it, especially in an audience in China, because at a hotel in Xiamen in December last year, the hotel, my daughter asked for shower gel. It was delivered by a robot, and it was amazing. And I told you to my friends, even my Chinese friends thought it was amazing. But maybe it's very common now, But Derek tells me actually there's a Singaporean hotel which does that, but the robot doesn't look that good, I have to say. I took a picture on that. But the point is that robots are here, but it's increasing. But the third book, if you are into AI and all that, you should read it, by Max Termark, who is the director of the Life Institute at MIT. And his interpretation is that there will be a rise of a human machine which will be of the third kind, which is very different from us, which will survive and perpetuate itself independently of the humankind. But let us not get too bogged down into it, because I want to just tell you about the rise of networks and also the rise of machines. The next three books is more at home. It's about longevity, about genetics, and about how the world can organize itself, because we are going to be living in a world of 100-year lives. So I was in the Berlin conference as Conger was. We were at the Berlin conference and we attended, and there was a talk by a professor from LSE, and he interpreted statistics in a rather interesting way. He said that 28% of Europeans born in 2018, 28% will survive to age 100. I have studied life expectation before and all that, but is it 20? Then it's a different way of interpreting the study based on existing mortality improvements. And then in August last year, there was an article in Financial Times big read on the 9th of August, because it was a public holiday in Singapore, I remember that. An article by Linda Gretton, the first book, and she's the advisor to the Japanese government, and she says that 50% of Japanese born this year, last year, or this year, doesn't matter, will survive to age 100. 50% of Japanese born this year will survive to age 100. What does it mean in terms of retirement planning? What does it mean on how to organize our life? What does it mean in lifelong learning? When I graduated from LSE and passed at IFoA, that's it, I have qualified. But you realize that if you were born in 1918 and you're going to live to 2018, then you qualify in 1930. What you learned that year, 1935, until now, is totally irrelevant. So lifelong learning, which the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries promulgate and preach, is no longer a cliche. No longer a cliche. If you do not take lifelong learning, if you are below 40, I think you really got to rethink. I think those who are my age, 60, and a bit older, and our life expectation is not that long, maybe you can still get away with it. But then lifelong learning is actually quite fun. Those who are below 40, if you think you have stopped learning, then you shouldn't do that, because it affects you psychologically and affect your confidence, affect your conversation. So that is a great thing to reflect on. So this is the three books. The next three books is more historical, about world trade, climate change, by a fairly old author, Thomas Friedman, The World is Flat. Age of Recovery was about comparing with the Renaissance. How are we different from the Renaissance? And Ferguson is a historian. He talks about the power of networks, which is about political change. And I do this because I wanted to give you a sense of the change that are taking place of the major inflection point, and you are already very familiar with digital, right? Digital, especially with Alibaba and Tencent here and WeChat, is just amazing, right? Any visitor to this country from the West or Southeast Asia, you'll find how can China leapfrog? But you leapfrog. The fact that you were behind was an advantage. You never had credit cards, and you never had the Kodak cameras because you just leapfrog. So a disadvantage has become an advantage. A disadvantage has become an advantage. So this is how the world is dynamic. But you see, most of us, and I'm speaking to the young in Singapore and in Malaysia, I was like them, 35 years, so I was quite motivated. But I also know that they don't have the time. They say that one of the issues is that they're too busy. They're too busy. But I say that there is no argument from what you read in the newspaper and magazine that the world is changing very fast. It is because you know about the digital revolution, but it's not just about the revolution. It's about platform, it's about crowds, it's about Mother Nature and climate change, it's about globalization, it's about the 100-year life, and it's about the power of networks. So do you think that we are in a new world or in the old world? Yeah, and I refuse to be drawn in about it, but because I want to partner the people in the audience and examine the evidence. So now we have taken a worldwide view, right? Now we go back to what does it mean for actuaries, right? What are actuaries? Are we very special? We must be quite special. People think, you take survey, people think we are quite clever. And apparently in all our surveys, we are paid quite highly. And in the Actuary magazine, in LinkedIn, and also Facebook, and I made a comment, actuaries in the top 10 jobs. And then the other 6 or 7 jobs, data scientists, all that is like overlap with actuaries, So we are quite cool. We are quite cool. So we are paid quite highly, allegedly, we are paid quite highly. But what do we do? What do we do? What is so special about us? Okay, so the skill sets, the skill sets we have, is math and stat, risk and stochastic process, investment economics, compound interest, and life contingency. But you cannot claim that you are the best mathematicians in the world or statisticians because the people who are doing pure maths and Institute of Mathematics and Application are better than us. Real statisticians are better. We can't claim, we are not bad, but we are not the best. Stochastic process, not really, but SIRA in a financial context we are. And investment economics, if you want to compare with the economists and CFA, we might be comparable, but we are not specialists. The only thing we are special is compound interest. The accountants claim they know compound interest, but they don't really understand it the way we do. You agree or not? Because we are very deep. And the CFA, not bad. They got dividend discount model. But we learn increasing annuity, decreasing annuity, variable coupons, and they got, and we deal it into a real sophisticated functions, so no one can touch us. Demography, okay. The other innovation is commutation function. Demographers use commutation function because they got life table. But we combine life table with V, with interest rate. And you call it is it LX? Big LX, right? Big LX and DX, NX, MX. You all still study that, right? This commutation function. That one, no one can do it, except actuaries. No one can do it. So you want to price assurance, increasing assurance, bonus reserve, only we can do it. But these are the only 2 things that other specialists cannot do. The rest they all can do what? Agree or not? Yeah? So where do we work? So we work in these places. 95% of us in this room and any audience, I would argue, work in life insurance, pensions, general insurance, and investment. And then consulting regulation is on these areas anyway. 95% of us work in this area. Yeah. It's because we apply the skill sets in life assurance domains like with profits, valuation, terminal bonus, reserve, bonus reserve valuation, right? Solvency, IFRS 2, chain ladder method. So the mathematics is not complicated. But it's the language of the profession, it's the standards of the profession, it's the reputation of the profession, it's the context of the profession, and it is the industry which we create. Yeah, life assurance in the UK, capital redemption business. We serve us and we grew with it. We grew with it. But our perennial strength is on the foundation of using mathematics, the best mathematics and on law of uncertainty and risk of our time to solve relevant business problems. Yeah? But we have stuck in this box because we are paid highly in this box, but this box is now subject to stress. Yeah, subject to stress in the next 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. Because the underlying our strength, we have data analytics and data science, which I think our preceding speaker spoke eloquently just now, and many other speakers, right? But also machine learning, NLP, neural networks, and artificial intelligence. Because these people, you have already seen them coming into the companies in Chong'an, in Ping An, in AXA, in CXA in Singapore, Aviva. Data scientists are doing work which are closer and closer to ours, and you can't say they can't do. They can do. But they don't have the language. They don't have a language, right, of insurance and the business judgment. Yeah. So they're coming in to take our roles. But some of our actuaries, especially from Australia and also from South Africa and in Malaysia, I learned from my two, they're working in other areas. Yeah. 1,200 graduates from Malaysia graduated with actuarial science. They are not IFoA fellows, they are not SOA fellows, but they got a degree in actuarial science. Many of them, I also work for Nielsen, which is a market rating company. Many of them work for a casino. Yeah? And I spoke with a Scottish gentleman this morning. Actually, 5-10 years ago, there was a group of actuaries working in a British betting house. But you can see how the thinking capability of actuaries could marry into those industries. So there are other people who are working. Our actuaries are already working in Grab. There are a lot of actuaries working there. They're not necessarily IFoA people, yeah, but they got degrees in actuarial science. And obviously the employers found that they are different from MBA, they're different from Bachelor in Accounting, they're different from a degree in mathematics, because somehow they have this maths and statistics and probability, and they could connect it with a business problem. That is probably the new proposition we can have, right? And health ecosystem, right? CXA is a good example. Climate change in UK, and there are many actuaries. Jeremy is in banking, and he said we should really create, he's somewhere in the audience, create a domain to support bankers. And the profession is eager to help spread our wings, but we got to think hard, because it's a resource issue as well. Think hard on how to do it. And loyalty card companies, yeah, especially in Australia, there is a consulting company that is also in machine learning. And then there are many actuaries who are actually venturing out into that kind of consulting, but it's not organized yet. Okay. So these people, this extension, So this extension, so it's a two-sided thing, because what I'm arguing is that the boundaries which protect the safe and secure box is becoming porous. You may disagree with that. But my sense is that our skill set is not enough. We are already acquiring. Whether you like it, our people are already acquiring. And Australians, UK are acquiring, but we may have to acquire much more systematically and doing that. And there are people with those skill sets coming into our domains. There are people who are in our domains, our own people going out to new domains. So how do we, this safe and secure box is not the same as secure box I joined 35 years ago, yeah, I think. Yeah, but this safe and secure box is still the right box to be in. I don't think we have made any mistake. But the question is, how do we position the new safe and secure box for the future? And that is the question, right? So a very quick diversion, but I think these two slides was given in ICA Berlin about 9 months ago. And basically, he said actually got industry knowledge and got data hacking skills, but we don't have the new era statistics. I said, what is the new era statistics? So I went to the American Academy website, and they got a very good booklet, and they say the new, but this one looks very familiar. And I asked a few data scientists and the chief AI officer of MAS. He said, this one, no problem for actuaries. No problem for actuaries. This is what you got to learn. But inside there, there's machine learning, neuro-linguistic, and you look at some of the definitions of data science, there's a big overlap with machine learning, neuro-linguistic programming, and ultimately artificial intelligence. But so if you think of the x-axis, it is the modern mathematics of our time. So I alluded to it in one of my talks. You know, our profession is not about the institute or society, it's about people. So if you look into our history, the people who make really decisive steps were people by Richard Price, James Dodson, William Morgan, and in our century, Frank Mitchell Reddington. And they were trying to solve problems on survivalorships for annuities or capital redemption. And they were trying to develop curves of mortality. And they were using probability from Nevoyer and Edmund Halley and all that. But they were using the most modern mathematics and statistics of their time to solve the business problems they have. So I think the actuary of today should be using the most modern cognitive, analytical, mathematical equipment and tools available to help businesses solve the problems of our time. And these problems will have elements of risk, data, and uncertainty. So we are well positioned, but we've got to strengthen our x-axis to weigh out. We cannot rely on the mathematics of yesteryear or the mathematics of yestercentury and hope that we can still be relevant in the next 10, 20, or 30 years, because we will not be. We will not be. So there is an agenda for action. We really need to strengthen our x-axis, because that is our proposition to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the professions and graduates. Okay, I won't go into this so therefore, but you see, many of us today, we have consultant actuaries, we've got people who work in operations, product marketing, CEO, because they were not just an actuary. So Frank Reddington said, an actuary who is only an actuary is not an actuary, it's an actual code. Because he says the actuary should think more widely. So those people who work outside actuarial sphere are people with commercial judgment, with leadership skill, communication, EQ and all that. But in these are still important additional skills to be leaders of companies. And not all of us are going to be necessarily great business leaders. Some of us are going to be very good in deep analytical work, and that's fine, because it's a function of personality. But in the new world, what are the kind of competencies required? So I did some thinking and research, but my views are changing in the last 1 year, because I had more conversations with my council members and with audiences. So my view, but I'm going to put that as an input. I will make some comments later. So the big one for the challenge for the profession is that I have to go back, explain the skill, because this one I'm going to the future too fast. Okay, the first skill is strengthen the x-axis, what I call the primary strength. The secondary strength, there are three secondary strengths. One is working with technology. So you really, if an actuary, really must know how to work with technology, and I'm not saying using spreadsheets or using a program, Working with technology, what I mean is that devices, Internet of Things, drones, robotics, wearables, sensor, GPS, because all this will impact the customer and our business, and they carry rich unstructured data. So if you are in general insurance, you really got to think about drones, You got to think about drones in terms of claims, survey, management, delivery. If you are in car insurance, you got to think of a driverless car. And it's not just about the contract on who is liable, but it is also about the shrinkage of risk. Because when you have driverless car, we are going to have 90% less accidents than before. So the pool is going to shrink. So what do we do, you see? So if you are in savings and investments, you really got to do behavioral finance. But okay, behavioral finance is adjacent domain, not about technology. But if you are in health, you really got to understand wearables, vitality, understand wearables, Internet of Things, and also social and behavioral data from social media on how you live, because that is a more accurate picture of your morbidity and your mortality than any life table they can give you. Yeah. But that is going to come because the data is going to be organized. So people like Alibaba, Tencent, all that, they are in a very good space. But of course, they would have issues with regulation. Facebook have issues with regulation, so they might be slowed down. Yeah. Because some of them are private data issue. But the power of computing is going to be such that all our structured data will become less and less relevant. And actuaries are damn good in structured data. Yeah, we polish them, we organize them, we clean them. But the world of prediction is going to come from unstructured data. Yeah, but this is a big tectonic shift, but doesn't mean that we are caught. I think we are responding. We are responding. Yeah. The second competency I want to talk about is about communication, and here communication is not about presentation or PowerPoint slides or writing. That is important, but actually understanding communication in social networks. And also understanding the power of platform companies like Alibaba, Facebook, Google. Because the greatest competition to Prudential, AXA, Aviva is not going to be another product and service company. Will be an ecosystem. And how it emerged, I would not know. How it will be an ecosystem, right? And whether they will go in aggressively or not, there's also a regulation issue. So this is the space. But for individuals, we really got to up our game because whatever you learn is going to be applicable. And the third one is that we cannot just be good in maths and stats and stay uninterested. So curiosity into other domains is really important. Choose something you like. And I think that areas of relevance to us are genetics, genomics, behavioral finance, because behavioral finance will drive savings. And why somebody asked what can actually do to help the ordinary person save for retirement. Actually, a lot of it is nothing to do with compound interest. It's why people don't save. It's a behavioral finance issue. Climate change, demography, platform companies, and so forth. So this is the third of the secondary strand. And the final strand, for me, and I have discussed with my mentors and people I respect, and they say really about curiosity. We got to stay curious, because curiosity will lead you to possibilities. If you are uninterested and unengaged, it's no good. It's no good. I just my worldview. And then we must be adaptable, because Darwin said, right, it's not the strongest or the smartest who survive. The people who can adapt. We got to adapt. It applies to individuals, yes. It applies to companies, it applies to professional bodies. If we don't adapt, we will stay where we are and we will sail into the sunset. Yeah. But we have an opportunity as a profession to reinvent ourselves, but it will not be permanent. It will not be permanent, because nothing is permanent, right? So it's about adaptability. The growth mindset is created by a lady called Carol Dweck. You should get her book. It's about learning effort and trying and not being fixed. And failure is not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah? It's what you learn from failure and learning from it. The attitude of learning, the growth mindset. I think it's taught in some schools. It's a very Montessori in approach. And I think we need to have a growth mindset, to grow and not to fix. Because the safe and secure box, we had a growth mindset when we were young, right? We were very determined. Then we land in a box. The key is that we must have the same growth mindset when you're in the box, because there's a different box out there, which I will propose later on, a different box out there, which will encourage the growth mindset. So this is where we are. How are we doing for time? Yeah, we're okay. So what's the challenge for a profession? The challenge for a profession is that today is only 2018, 2018. Today is only 2019, but these slides were produced last year. But what about 2028, how is it going to look like? What about 2038, how is it going to look like? How about 2048, how is it going to look like? No one knows, ma. So when I started, it was 30 years ago. So much has changed. But actually, also not much has changed. It depends on your perspective, right? So I will give you the tyranny of time. It has a different effect. I will talk about that later. But just think of the things which are going to impact us, right? No one in this room, especially after the presentation just now, is going to say that this is not going to impact us. Yeah, it will impact us, right? Automation, machine learning, and AI. Right? In terms of pricing, in terms of processing in the call center, all that will obviously will affect our work. All the ablest thinkers and scientists in the World Economic Forum, blah, 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 all already commented it, how many jobs will be replaced, and we can argue about that. But effectively, it will affect us. Yeah? Platform and cloud, I already talked about the power of Tencent and Alibaba and also the importance of social and behavioral. Actuaries have not really made any dent yet, or I've not seen, but I think we should encourage our younger actuaries to go into that space. Yeah? Longevity is our space. Longevity is our space. The implications for retirement and arrangement, and also implications for our syllabus, education and training, right? And also underwriting, right? What is the meaning of underwriting when you have this CRISPR, right? Where you can edit genes, right? And you can edit genes and you can be free of diseases, you know? This will impact all the GI companies and health insurance companies, right? Autonomous vehicles, devices, and sensors, right? I have a very good story. I was working with NTUC, which is a trade union congress, right? So they were very unhappy when Grab and Uber came in 5, 6 years ago in Singapore, because it threatened their existing structure, which is a traditional taxi company. But I think the drivers suddenly realized actually they can come out Uber driver also, so it's not really, doesn't threaten their jobs. It threatens their business model, which is the employer's problem. But 2 years later, they saw an experimentation or demonstration of a driverless car. Because Singapore is already have driverless crane and all that, driverless car. Their face changed, because that will threaten their job. Because if you are a driver in Singapore today, which is age below 30, you know that you cannot be a driver when you're age 60. It's for sure. There will be no drivers on the road in Singapore in 30 years' time or 25 years' time. I'm very clear about that. If you go to Tokyo Olympics next year, or is it this year, next year, the Tokyo Olympics village will have no drivers because they already planned it that way. It's not a big deal, yeah? And there will be no accidents. There could be other issues, yeah? So this is how things can really creep on you. And what is the meaning for GI, right? What is the meaning for GI? I have a more interesting story, you know, because I came to China for holiday last year, and the guide told me, no, we don't carry keys anymore because he just bought a new house. They use facial recognition and fingerprint for house keys. I said, okay, not a big deal because my iPhone also there. Then I realized that it's a bloody big deal if you're a locksmith, right? If I'm a locksmith, age 50 years old, it's not a big deal because I have a lot of old houses. But if my father is a locksmith and you want to hand the business to me and I'm 30 years old, the business is going to disappear. SHIT, man. The business will disappear. It's going to be like that. A locksmith, right? Yeah. But you see, face-to-face selling, which is agency selling or bank assurance selling, in Singapore and Malaysia is still very big. If I'm a CEO of a large company, I will still invest in that, you know, because that's where sales are driven and embedded value are driven. So it's still, I was worried about alternative distribution 15, 20 years ago, but now it's still there. Face-to-face is very expensive, it's still there, so it doesn't change. But if you flip it around and you ask yourself, in Southeast Asia, you have companies like HMV, Tower Records, Virgin Records. In 2017, they were very big stores, you know, in London too, right? But today, they all disappeared, right? Because iPhone came on 2007, Netflix came later. Who buys DVDs now or CDs now? It's a collector's item. Yeah, but only in the last 10 years, you know, 10 years. So when it shifts, it comes very quickly. But it appears slow, right? But when it comes very quickly. Yeah. So it is a tyranny of time. It's very hard to relate to it. I just celebrated my 60th birthday earlier this week. But it was only a while ago I was 30, you know. It was quite scary, yeah? It's just like that. So I don't know how to interpret this. So climate change. Blockchain. We must get blockchain. The form filling is driving me crazy, right? And the gyro form and the form filling for our banks, you know. In Singapore anyway, and Malaysia. It's just crazy, you know. So many forms to fill, mortgage applications, you know. So you're blockchain. And of course, I think in our world, I actually believe that our businesses, which has a lot of embedded value, will be deconstructed into investments and protection. But I've been saying that for the last 20 years. So I can't predict. I can't predict. Because 3 years from now, you come and say, actually, we are still like that. Actually, we are still like that. So this is my sense of it. I think there should be a revolution in personal GI and healthcare. Healthcare, I think no one has really solved the problem. So this is an area which actually should go in. So I can see that these are the domains which are adjacent to us. So what I call a conundrum, because I do not know what we should do, you see, because if you go to a meeting, whether it's a conference or even a council meeting, but actually the real world, there's still a lot of work, right? IFRS 17, Solvency II, MAS inquiry, and then rerun of your valuation data. There's still a lot of work. Why you worry about this, you see? Because the question the audience asked me is that, this presentation is good, but next week when I go to work, I still got to do the boring stuff. So how do I do it, you see? But I have no way to frame it now. The only way I can frame it is that you want to be healthy, you can start going to the gym and not smoke for Monday. But if you start 2 years later, you are 30, you are probably still okay. But you start 4 years later, you're probably still okay, but you cannot start 10 years later, right? But if you can start now, it's better, because you feel better and you got acquired a habit, right? That's the only explanation I can give, right? Because in real world, they say I go to work next week, I still face my boss, they still ask me to do IFRS on a spreadsheet. I cannot go into data science. But going into new areas will give you confidence, improve your conversational ability. That's the only way I could handle that now. So a good rule of thumb is that everything you take, it takes longer to happen than you think they will. But when they happen, it happen faster than you thought they could. Which I thought was a very nice way to sum it. And Bill Gates has an equivalent quotation. He said that we always over-exaggerate the pace of change in the next 2 years, but under-exaggerate the pace of change in 10 years. So change comes and then it happens. So the important thing for our profession is that we must be able not to be caught on the back foot. If you read the book on the history of actuarial thought, I think the British actuarial profession has been caught on the back foot on a number of things. The embrace of financial economics and not pricing guarantees properly for the with-profit business, leading to the collapse of Equitable Life and all that. But that is history. But I think going forward, we cannot be caught on the back foot for not doing something for the next generation of actuaries. So I think that is important. So how should we go about it? And the way I thought about thinking about it, so there's an adjustment. So the safe and secure box, we should tilt the safe and secure box and then call it a springboard for the future. How can we tilt the safe and secure box as a base and then grow a springboard future in terms of skill sets and mindsets? Skill sets and mindsets, as well as more interesting domains. So in summary, I've done this. The first primary strength is about the x-axis. We got to strengthen our x-axis. Then the secondary strength is working with technology, understanding platforms, and being multidisciplinary. And the third one is about curiosity. But in my conversations with my fellow council members, I think I would also push for something called commercial or business judgment in the final one. It seems to come out in a lot of survey. Why people employ actuaries and not data scientists? We somehow have a reputation as a good thing that we have the business judgment. It's quite a nice thing that people say we have. I'm not going to argue with that, right? I'm not going to argue and say no. But they claim we have, we better claim it and manage to develop that all actuaries have business judgment. And the other thing is that we are quite professional. We don't simply do things. But sometimes we are too harsh on ourselves. Hey, people say that actuaries, actually I talked to the chief data scientist of Munich Re, Shakin. He said, they want us because we do things properly. And we take care of things. That's a nice reputation to have. Yeah? So I think it's about ethics, integrity, and then we got business judgment. Then we are no longer statisticians, you see? And then we're no longer, and we are curious, we are multidisciplinary. Hey, this is quite cool as a profession, but it's no longer the gold standard fellow in charge of the Profits Life Fund. There will be still jobs there for the next 20 years, but for the next 50 years, 75 years, hard to say, right? Hard to say. Who is selling with profits business now? Yeah, non-profit, unit-linked business don't really need actuaries if you think about it, right? So you think about it. So this is things I would add to that. On new domains, you have seen this, so I won't repeat it because I want to close. Because I wanted to introduce you the concept of the Moravec Paradox. You know, jobs are disappearing, and you can read a lot of books about it. But if you talk to a radiographer, and I have a very good radiographer friend, he's the top radiographer in Singapore, he says it's true, because you go to him, your MRI scan, ultrasound scan, he could tell why this shadow is a problem. Yeah? But now the AI is doing it better. The AI is doing it better. And you go to paralegal cases and legal cases, and I read papers in Australian publication elsewhere. The decisions made by AI judges are more consistent, rigorous, and more rational. It's hardly surprising, right? And less prejudicial. But it's not surprising because they can accumulate cases and data points, and they could taxonomize the data points in such a way that is consistent and coherent. And they come out with consistent decision. So you got two jobs. And then you got so many other jobs, journalism, medicine, a lot of jobs. But we will always say, but my job as an artist will not be disrupted. It's probably true. My job as a speaker will not be disrupted. But we don't disagree that the water is rising. We are in mountains and valleys and in terrains, right? The water is rising. More and more AI and machine can do our jobs. The key for us is that the ground we stand on must be high enough. So when the water rises, we are still dry, Water rises, we are still dry, right? But if we are sitting on a low hill, we must be able to jump to another domain, a higher hill. Yeah, this is about preventing ourselves, right? So that we are still dry. But one day, according to some political scientists, that all jobs will disappear and universal income will come in. That's okay. That's a politician's problem, not your problem. Your problem is to make sure you stay on a dry place. Because that day come, you must learn how to swim. Must learn how to swim, right? Because that day no more jobs, must learn how to engage yourself without work. Yeah? But that's a different problem. But our problem today is that we must equip our actuaries with skills and mindsets and ability to navigate from domain to domain, because the ground we stand on, to me, is not as secure as it was. Not as secure. And if you are fixed on defending that, it will be a mistake. Yeah, that's my thesis. It will be a mistake. So I think that we should begin to think in those terms. Continuous learning, adjacent domain, changing our syllabus. There's a lot of convergence. There and I have this continuous, but we have to move a profession, organization. There are a lot of conversations to be had. But that's the only way I could frame it, because we cannot frame it in a defeatist way. If we frame it, because we are in a very good space, we're in a good space, but we need to think of new things, especially for the younger generation. So we need to navigate the world of Moravec Paradox. So book writing, the machine can't do it. But speech recognition, no problem. Speech recognition, no problem. Driving, no problem. Have you seen investment reports from AI produced? They are all quite good, But they look at our numbers and they can give buy or sell. They are quite good. But book writing and AI design, they cannot. Theorem proven cannot. But whether they will overtake or not, we don't have to argue about it. The point is that the level of the water is rising. No one disputes that. No one disputes that. So then the Ministry of Education in Singapore and elsewhere, and I sit on a university board, and they were debating, so how are we training our young people? You see? Are we training them the right thing? You see? What skill sets or mindset? So they think they want them to do STEM, which is science, technology, maths, but they also think that they need humanities. Then they think that, they have to be multidisciplinary. They come to the same conclusion, but vocational jobs, very difficult, because vocation is a function of practices and standards, but those can easily be swept away. You see? So they also don't have answer, but they are trying to do the right thing to give them creativity, to think contextually, and also imagination and creativity. But that is another ball game altogether. Okay, so this, if you like, some of the books published by the World Economic Forum is good. So I suppose if there is a summary, is really about the safe and secure box was a very good box, but we should use it as a base to create it as a springboard for the future. And I think we should create a future where the next 10 to 20, 30 years is a prosperous one for the people who join us as a profession, How the world will be in 50, 100 years' time, I don't think we have a monopoly on interpretation, so we will leave it at that. So this is, so that is the thinking with my colleagues and myself through brainstorming, and we came to the fact that it's about navigation, and we should not be too siloed in our thinking, although that has helped us in many ways, because most of us have rewarding careers, right? So I want to, because I'm retired now, I want to advance this agenda along with my colleagues in UK, so that we could be very optimistic about the future because of our skills, of our reputation, and for our branding, and continue to work in this part of the world. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Suchi. I'm sure our president is happy to take a few questions from the floors. So again, if you have questions, please raise your hand. Our staff will bring the microphone to you. Anyone? Yeah, sincere. So, hold on one second.
Hi, Susie. May I ask a question about how to get data scientists more recognize our skill as also data scientists to move our skill to a more wider field? Because just for example, we were talking to a manager from Zhong'an just now that they still think that actuaries are dealing with reserving the pricing, and the data is, especially in the sales scenes, is completely irrelevant to us. So I think there's a lot of way to go other than we learn things, but also we get ourselves out to see we are also part of a data scientist domain as well. So my question is, how can we do that as a profession? Thank you.
So we are an ecosystem, right? So I cannot say we are great data scientists, and then an employer say, where are your data scientists? I don't have the answer, right? So, but we agree this is directionally, we should encourage our people to go there. And if data scientists come in to do our work, we deserve it, because we're not, why are they doing it? Why is the employer doing it and not our actuaries are doing it? Yeah, it's because they are cheaper, they are better, whatever the reason is, right? Whatever reason. But therefore, we need to have an offer. We have an offer to the world, whether it's a life insurance company or a health ecosystem or a Grab company, that if you have this branding or you have this certification, he's really good. He's really good. Yeah. But I cannot say that everyone is good yet, right? The goodness and the reputation is yours and my responsibility. We've got to make sure it's good. So therefore, we got to reinvent our syllabus to make it relevant. Yeah. But our syllabus could be too much, or I'm going to spend more time on understanding our current syllabus. But our syllabus could be too much geared towards legacy business, which but that is still required. Yeah? So we got a short-term problem stroke opportunity, because we got people who are still working in there and they are paying the memberships for it. But we also got a long-term problem opportunity, because this is going to shrink. Yeah? So we got to manage this, right? The transition, and this conversation is a real one, Because there are members of my council and members of the profession who says that why are where are the revenues and therefore you serve that. Of course we serve them, but also we need to think about the future. Yeah? And the future, and whether it's UK based or is it global, right? Why should we worry about China or Southeast Asia? We worry about it because it's in our interest to do so. We have scale, we got intellectual breadth. Our employers like Aviva and Prudential also go to Asia and we want to support them. Right? But if you all start thinking narrowly, it's difficult. We cannot move this by one person. But we can move it if there is understanding of what you're trying to do. Yeah, what you're trying to do. And then we need role models. Role models, right? Somebody, Sidney Benjamin is Conga, I'm not sure, this is how I recollect. In 1970, the IFoA has no GI business, IFoA. 1970, when I joined in 81, yeah? The GI only came in. Sidney Benjamin, GB Hay, Professor Beard, they were saying that actuaries should be in the GI business. They were saying it. But it was only in London. They went there and said that you should use us because we are good. But actually, a lot of composite companies have life actuaries and they go and start in GI companies and they can clean up data, do reserving well. And then they develop a syllabus called the B3 syllabus, right? General insurance. But today I think there must be thousands of actuaries working in GI business in UK, which is good, right? But these three guys push it. And the book was not very well written. And there were a lot of inconsistencies in the book, but someone got to start. But it pays after 30 years. Today there are so many GI actuaries. But actually, I'm not sure how many really need to sign. You don't need that many to sign. I'm not sure they require for signing. But the GI business employ them because somehow we have professionalism. So something to be proud of. And secondly, we are quite good in data. We organize data nice, and everything squares up, Not every profession can do that, you see. And we are quite business sense. And also we know the language of premiums and claim. Yeah, so that's all. But that's a profession. Yeah. So you think about it, and I mean, talk about time, right? I was amazed. I told Derek when I first came to IFoA forum in Hong Kong. I was amazed of how IFoA has made strides, right, in the last 20 years because I was out of it. Because when I first joined the profession, there was no fellow of Institute of Actuaries in Malaysia. Today I think there are about 100, right? I think Corinne, about 100, something like that. It's amazing. I went there, wow, it's really quite a nice feeling. So 30 years, it looks like a long time, but it will come on you. So 30 years time, we could be the cool actuary working in all kinds of business. Yeah, you'll be a CEO of one of those businesses. So it's possible. It's possible. So, but you got to do something. I think we just got to try, right? Because I personally have some opinions, but no one has the answer. So I and my presidential, John Taylor and Marjorie, and we keep on debating it, yeah. But I think we're going to move up into experimentation and execution. Yes, Joey.
Yeah, just one sec.
Thank you. Hi, Shui Ji. I'm just wondering from your past, your interaction with actuaries in China in the past few days, and also you're working with actuaries from Southeast Asia. I'm very interested to know your observation or how would you compare, actuaries from Southeast Asia versus actuaries from China in terms of, say, skill set, in terms of the mindset, in terms of the interest, as well as attitude as well.
All my instincts tells me I've got to be careful in replying. But I have great admiration for, I said it yesterday, right, in the transformation of China. I just great admiration, right? And I'm Chinese, of Chinese origin, right? But the culture and mindset, we are all human beings. We are all human beings. Whether you're black or China, and I think that if you have a growth mindset, if you and immigrants, and hungry Vietnamese, hungry Pakistanis, hungry blacks, immigrants, they're hungry, they're driven, nothing is impossible. But if you have everything, it's different, you see. It's different, you see, because then you of course, if you're like Bill Gates and everything, you start giving away, that's great. Yeah, but you're given, so the young, but you see, when I see the faces, it's not because you're Chinese. You see some of the incredible Indians, right? CEOs in Silicon Valley. And there is an adjective into this called gujab. It's a gujab, is it? It's an Indian word. Is that how you can make a big difference? I think it's GUAAB. Why the Pepsi Cola CEO? Why the Microsoft Nayala CEO? Why they are so good? Because they create outcome and solution out of scarcity. Yeah, they don't have resources. That's why. Yeah. So therefore, having a lot of tuition and all the resources may not be a good thing. Yeah. So the I came from a fairly backward family, but not as dramatic as say other people, but otherwise I won't be so driven. Full stop, right? I think you are probably like that as well. The first generation, your children might have a different problem, right? But that's so I thought Taman, our Deputy Prime Minister, had a very good say about why Singapore is successful and why it will be more difficult in the future. Singapore is successful because we convert a disadvantage into an advantage. We have no resources at all except human resources. So therefore, you know what to do. Make the best of the human resources. A disadvantage into advantage. Our neighboring countries have a lot of advantages, but their GDP per person is not as high. Yeah. So this is a lesson. So it's a lesson for every race, every country. Yeah. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. So but a skill set and mindset, if you're more exposed internationally, you'll be better, right? Obviously. That's my view. So I believe in engagement. So you have the opportunity to get a scholarship, I think, to work elsewhere, and then you work many places. That is advantageous. I would encourage people to be engaged, to be open to possibility and don't judge, to open and engage. It's better to be engaged than to stay in the silo. That is my personal view. So I encourage you to. It's not because he is a Southeast Asian Chinese or mainland Chinese. The differences is due to a lot of these factors.
Yeah, I guess we only have time for the final question. It's the gentleman over there. Please.
No? Oh, there we go. Thank you very much for your talk. And you raised an interesting point and one that I've given a lot of thought about, which is in your rising water analogy, we're going to get to a point where we're able to provide universal income and we won't have jobs for the masses. And one could argue that we're close to that point now. Given the water rising to this point has clearly been, I believe, a main driver in the concentration of wealth throughout the world. What, if anything, is the IFoA doing about wealth distribution? Because I think quite uniquely placed and very well placed to address that issue.
Officially, officially our position, we have some position on sustainability, the United Nations goals. But in terms of foreground of effort and attention, our energies are closer home, which is about our membership and the relevance of the profession. That is not to say that we don't care, I think there are many actuaries on the council and personal actuaries on the council who are very passionate about the United Nations goals. Marjorie is one of them, and sustainability goals and also inequality. And there are actuaries who are also very passionate about climate change, and increasingly on diversity. And I was very proud to see a group of people who are quite intellectual in our approach, but also caring, right? I have, personally, I got a soft spot for the income inequality problem because all this wealth creation is distorted. But I think the solution probably is a mass and a political one. rather than a professional one. To get the agenda as our main agenda, will require a very different coalition. Yeah? Our coalition is to help our members to contribute to a better world. So John Taylor, who is who will be the next president, he is very much into retail finance and how actuaries can help individuals save in a responsible and effective way. Actuaries are well placed, right? Because you know it's the power of compound interest, save early, diversify in a low-cost portfolio. But many of us work in big companies whose purpose and mission is to enhance their embedded value in accordance with fair dealing and all that. I know all that, but not necessarily the best products, right? So we are caught with a lot of trade-offs. So John was in his thing as well as data science. So you see that there are a lot of good-hearted, but we need to focus our energy on things which converges us. Then we can make a difference. Because so I think in our professional capacities individually we can have a lot of influence. Yeah. But I don't think we will support goals like UN, but I think it will be wrong or it will not be very productive to say that this is our number one objective. Yeah, number one objective. So that's my take on it. And there are sufficient issues on our table. Yeah.